Endure and survive, and welcome everybody to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. In this episode, we're going to give you our review for episode 5, now streaming on HBO Max. Hey, if you're new to the channel, please drop a like and also share to greatly help us out, and check out our other reviews for The Last of Us Season 1 thus far. Dylan, this was such a tearjerker episode. My goodness, I think that it improved the game, but let's just get started with your thoughts.
You know, every time I watch this show, it feels like my eyeballs are at the gym just sweating. This show finds new ways to make me cry, and that's how good it is, man. The writing is so good and even though I haven't played the games, I can just feel the emotion that the players have felt just watching the show, and I think it's really well crafted. I think the actors are phenomenal. I gotta give a shout out to Lamar Johnson and Kevon Woodard in this episode because they were just amazing. Their chemistry, the way they portray, the ASL is so natural and fluid. It feels like it's like they've been training their whole lives for this. Yeah. And of course, Pedro and Bella Ramsey, of course. But yeah, I know you got a bunch of thoughts you want to get off your chest right now, so let's hear what you thought of it.
Yeah, so Henry and Sam, again, I think that's the trend with The Last of Us now. They like to put little intros and show what happened before, and I'm kind of glad to see Henry and Sam's perspective on how they're trying to survive. And we also get to see the doctor from the last episode, and unfortunately he passed away. Yeah, their chemistry is so great here. It's very believable, and I love the redesign they did, that they had Sam is death, and that's nothing like the game, but it also emphasizes that Sam needs to rely more on Henry, but still he's a little man in Henry's eyes, so Henry still tries to tough him up a little bit or give him some tasks, and I found that was really genuine to the game. And Henry, I love that little line that he's afraid, and he's afraid really to lose his brother. And it's very sad. The whole thing is very sad. I told you. I was like, be prepared. Like, you think you cried in episode 3, be prepared for this episode. It was a tearjerker for sure. And man, I love Bella Ramsey in this episode too. She's phenomenal. But yeah, tell me your favorite parts.
Yeah, well, so the episode, obviously, like you said, kicks off with Henry and Sam's perspective, and I love that the first couple minutes of this episode was just them doing sign language. I always love when they find ways to incorporate it, no talking. It's just all motion, action heavy driven dialogue. So I thought that was great. Even just Henry with his superhero kind of mass. In a way, it's kind of like a mass of courage, how he was Henry was telling him, don't be afraid, right? Yeah. Just put on this mask, right, and just look at me. And I just love seeing how they were kind of like a foil in a way, or a mirror image of Ellie and Joel. Just you can even just tell their mannerisms, and even just Ellie's interaction with Sam. It's so innocent and it's so childlike, but it's so believable on screen. They just work really well together. And even Henry and Joel, they're obviously two very damaged people, right? And they're trying to redeem themselves for their actions. But yeah, we also see in this episode Kathleen and Perry. So what did you think of more of her background?
Well, I like the fact that there was a podcast or something from The Last of Us led by Troy Baker, and they were mentioning, and I think I mentioned this last time, that every revolution, once it happens, sometimes the people who took over are worse. And so as you see here in the intro from the show in this episode, everyone was acting very hedonistic, and it felt like a Game of Thrones, one of those scenes where everyone's just being ravaged and
very
shit.
Chaotic. Yeah.
Very chaotic. And I could see why Henry, even if Henry wasn't the bad guy at all in Kathleen's eyes, I think it's still a no to stick around. They try to give us opportunities to empathize more with Kathleen. I appreciate that, because again, the whole point of The Last of Us is no one's really bad or good. That kind of felt a little rushed, to be honest. I maybe needed more time to feel warmer towards her. But what are your thoughts on Kathleen in this episode?
I think they gave us more cons than pros for her character in this episode, because obviously she didn't give those prisoners a fair trial. She said, yeah, they're not going on trial, just kill them all.
Right.
They tried to a little bit make us like understand like her mindset. I think she was just so far gone in her quest for vengeance, because she even said her brother told her that to just forgive, right?
Yeah.
But I think she was so far lost, and I guess her brother was the only family that she had left, that she had nothing left but revenge in her heart. But yeah, I as our good friend Jerome once said, when she died, I cheered, I laughed.
I guess so, yeah. Well, let me ask you something. I think, what do you think about this? I know you haven't played Last of Us Part 2, but what do you think of this thought that I have right now? That maybe Kathleen, the point of her character is to kind of introduce Ellie's mindset for season 2, maybe. Something happens, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but also she's kind of a mirror to a character called Abby. So I'm not gonna spoil anything, I'm just saying that. So do you think that was appropriate then to include her character, or is it like a thing where it's like...
I think Kathleen represents kind of like the darkness that this world brings, because obviously there are lots of people that have losses in this world, right? Joel's had loss, Ellie's probably had loss, you know, and then Sam and Henry, of course. But it's what we do with that loss, right? That shapes our characters. So I think Kathleen is a twisted version of trauma and how to not cope with that. And perhaps that's kind of a foreshadow to maybe Ellie or other characters in the show. So yeah, I think the point of her character was just to see how far we go down this path of vengeance and darkness, and kind of in a way it was like, because I kept thinking of Bill also, because Bill, he didn't have many friends and he was kind of on this self-isolation road, but once he had Frank in his life, you know, he kind of became a better person. So that's how I took it.
And actually, to add on that too, I think trauma leads to sometimes this malicious version of justice, especially in the Last of Us universe. Everyone has this notion of justice if they're wronged and disrespected. And I felt like Kathleen definitely felt disrespected by Henry's actions. Of course, not warranted, but it is what it is. What did you think of Perry in this episode? At least we got more of Tommy's voice here.
And he went up like a badass. I mean.
So spoilers also ahead then. Yeah. So now we're gonna get into spoilers. Okay.
So yeah, spoiler Terry. But I mean, I'm sure you're gonna talk about this too. Yeah. So we do get to see the bloater in this episode. It was awesome how they did it. But yeah, even Perry, like he went out like, and I think even Perry too. He kind of, I mean, he wasn't per se like a good guy himself, but I think he understood that there were bigger things to deal with than, you know, looking for Henry. Like he even said like, oh, are we gonna actually give these people a fair trial? And she was like, no, that's like a whole like farce, whatever. So he is like a sympathetic character too, but he actually has a love for her, right? Because he actually puts himself out of his way, because even though she's done these like selfish things, he still puts himself in harm's way to protect her. So that really shows like, you know, the differences in their character, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Kathleen doesn't care about, you know, the resistance. She'd rather just kill them all off to the infected just to get to Henry.
Yeah.
Whereas Perry, he's willing to put himself in harm's way for that.
And how they got there, for those that are interested and are still sticking around. Yeah. So they got there. They reimagine it. They used to be the sewers. Instead, it's underneath this building, and it's like tunnels and tunnels. And apparently, there aren't any more infected. So that was the whole thing, that why no one traveled down there. And so Henry had this brilliant idea, because he heard from this Fedra soldier that it's clear. It's been clear for like 3 years. So they go down there, and at least we got to see the drawings on the wall, and it was very reminiscent to the sewer scenes in the game. And at least they changed it to where instead of infected down there, we get to see more of this rare sight of children playing. And I thought it was really sweet to see Ellie and Sam play. And Endure and Survive, baby. Endure and Survive. They found the comic. Oh my God, that was so
cool.
Leo
meme. I'm like, they said
it. Exactly, man. But later they traveled to the suburbs, finally. I expected it. I was so glad. And the sniper scene happened. And yeah, that whole last act was amazing. What did you think of the whole action stuff that happened there?
Well, from what you were telling me, it was pretty accurate to the game, and I think it had such a great pacing to it. It started off, just them walking and having a good time and laugh, and then it just transforms into this very like big chaotic battle. I thought it was awesome watching it on screen, like, and it was actually like how we predicted in the last episode. Like they were about to kill them, and then the infected show up and actually like turn out to save them somehow. But it was great how they did it. Because they really felt like they didn't stand a chance either.
Yeah.
Like Henry, Sam, and Ellie, like in that whole infected group. Like I actually like it felt at moments like they were actually gonna get attacked. Just the way the battle was. And yeah, so Kathleen, her dumbass tries to. I was so mad at that scene. I was like, oh, in the middle of this whole battle, you're still like bent on revenge. Like literally, like you lost your army. And then like all these infected show, like I'd get the fuck out of here.
I know. Well, that's why I said I think she's a great mirror to Ellie's journey in The Last of Us Part 2 in a way. It's a great intro, and I think then you'll find it more authentic, the path that Ellie and this character Abby will go on and embark. That bloater was beautiful. I love seeing that bloater. My goodness, they did it justice, man. They really did. It's such a tank. Again, there's no spores, so they didn't throw any spore grenades. So I guess that's really gone now. What did you think about the blower too? Isn't it terrifying?
It's well designed, man.
Yeah.
It looks even better than I'd say like other monsters from other franchises, like Nemesis from Resident Evil.
Yeah.
It just looks so terrifying, and it makes you want to run, honestly. And even like the other infected, like the clickers and everything, I think they're just so well designed. The show makes it feel like very. We were talking earlier. I feel like it feels so like biological, like futurism in a way. It just feels like nature really like has taken over and decayed humanity. It's just so beautifully done, man.
It is, yeah. And again, nature isn't the bad guy. It's actually, it can be the people. And so I guess, do you want to talk about the climax of the show, I guess?
God, my eyeballs are sweating.
Yeah, it was so sad. I told you, I warned you.
It was really sad. I'm not gonna lie, like I almost teared up a bit. Because you think it's a glimmer of hope, because and it actually took me by surprise because I haven't played the game. So I thought, Sam and Henry would actually like go with them, and maybe they would break up eventually, like go their separate ways. But I thought they were gonna like end up, traveling to Wyoming together. But Sam and Ellie have this great like interaction. It's like a sleepover. Basically, they're having this great like conversation about what they're afraid of, and Ellie even tries like to help heal Sam because he got bit. At first I kept thinking of it was like the Grogu scene with the force healing
and Mando,
like the parallels to Mandalorian. But yeah, it doesn't work, unfortunately. And then when she wakes up, he's kind of like sitting on the bed like very still, and that's when I knew, oh man, he's gone. And that jump scare got me too, I'm not gonna lie, when he was like but yeah, and then so Sam jumps on Ellie, and he's trying to attack her, and then of course Joel and Henry are in shock, and then Henry has to make a decision. So I want to get your thoughts on that scene, and actually like how you thought it did in comparison to the game.
I think, again, I keep mentioning this, the fact that they have Kathleen, and then they also have Ellie being this very naive, but she feels like she has a purpose type of person in this world that kind of feels purposeless sometimes. I felt this reimagining of that whole encounter was brilliant, and it was everything. It felt like I was having bipolar while watching it because it was so sweet. And I felt like that's what made me want to tear up more, is the fact that she's trying to heal this little boy, and he acted phenomenally. And he's 8 in the game. He was like 13 or something like that. And he's so innocent. You can see it in his eyes. He's so innocent, and she's trying to heal him. And she doesn't know any better, so she's cutting herself trying to heal him. I think they outdid the game. Like in that last part, they outdid the game 100%. Like amazing, just like episode 3. And Lamar Johnson's performance when he finds out that he actually ended up shooting the brother in the head to save Ellie was a tearjerker for sure. And he ends up offing himself, right? Just like the game. In the game, he says it's all your fault to Joel. I can't exactly remember if he said that in the show, but he says it's all your fault. But that he doesn't mean it to Joel, he means it to himself, and he's nothing else to live for. I think a lot of these nuances where there was some like drops about, I think Kathleen said something about, yeah, exactly, like Henry was trying to save Sam because Sam had leukemia and he needed medicine, so that's why Henry turned in Kathleen's brother. And I think that parallels a lot to episode 9 when it comes. He put his brother over the community, over this leader. And I mean, man, I think Joel, he's just taken everything in, and still he has that hard exterior. And I think it's a perfect segue to episode 9. I think everyone's in for a shock. And there's going to be like a lot of hard truths. I think it's going to question your morality. And this episode has done that, I think, really well.
I thought it was great. I think this episode really showed how far we're willing to go to protect people. Because it's just like you said, like how Henry betrayed a friend to help his brother, and then he eventually killed his own brother to help Ellie in a way. So it was just great parallels, and it really touches back to the whole endure and survive quote, because now dealing with another loss of friends, Joel has to endure this, but he also has to survive for Ellie. Great episode, man. How would you rate this?
Oh my god, 10 out of 10. Poetry. Everything down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Everything down to the minute detail. Great show. But yeah, everybody, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. That is our review for episode 5 of The Last of Us. Remember to please like and share this. Help us out. We have plenty of other content coming your way for February. We have a lot of exciting guests as well. And of course, we have more The Last of Us reviews. It's Super Bowl Sunday. So guys, get drunk and party and go Eagles.
Go Birds.
But Dylan, why don't you take us away?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much. If you haven't checked out our content already, please do. We just did a review for You Season 4 Part 1. We have some other great content planned for you already. But yeah, please be sure to check us out on our other platforms on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And of course, you can check us out on our Instagram where we update our content and our episodes daily. So yeah, thank you so much. Until then, endure and survive, guys.
Endure and survive. See you guys.